Okay.
This is a real thriller written by Douglas Preston, published just this year. And I thought many of you might be interested in it, so I want to tell you a little bit about this book. And I hope you'll take a look at it sometime. It's available at the Pikespeak Public Library. Before I get into the book, there's a lot. The story uses the moon, one of the moons of Titan, one of the moons of Saturn, called Titan. And the facts are, there are a lot of information known about Titan. NASA, some 10 years ago, launched a spacecraft to orbit around this planet Saturn. And they took, ever since then, for 10 years now, have been taking photographs, radar information, and so forth about this planet, about Saturn and its planets. And even with the conjunction with the European Space Commission, they dropped a probe onto the planet to determine what the atmosphere and so forth was like. So let me read you a little bit out of this book here about Titan. Saturn's largest moon was unique in the solar system. It was the only moon that had an atmosphere. It had oceans, it had rain and clouds and storms. It had lakes and flowing rivers. It had seasons. It had mountains and erupting volcanoes, and deserts and dunes sculpted by the wind. It had all this, even though the surface of Titan hovered at 290 degrees below zero. It had methane as its liquid on the cornucopia of methane. In fact, there were huge lakes of methane. So on to the book then. NASA decided to send a probe to this moon, Titan, and land in the Kraken Sea. Problem was that to communicate with a spacecraft out there, it takes too long. It's 2 hours back and forth for the signals. So they decided to develop an artificial intelligence which would know enough about how to operate the equipment out there. They spent many years developing. Melissa was the chief programmer for this artificial intelligence, and she called her Dorothy. It's Dorothy. So Melissa communicated with Dorothy, spoke with her just like, it was almost like a human, and really could do this job. So then NASA decided they're going to build a simulator to test all of this before they sent the spacecraft out there. And they built this huge, they call it a bottle, 90 feet high, 40 feet in diameter, filled it with methane, a cornucopia of methane, and had the spacecraft inside there. And we're getting ready to lower it down into the methane. All of a sudden, things started going haywire. Dorothy was not listening to the commands that she was supposed to listen to, and started banging around, and actually started to drill a hole into the tank. And everybody knew what was going to happen, of course. They got out of there, most of them got out of there. And boom, the whole thing exploded. Dorothy got out onto the internet. Melissa, her author, was injured, but she ended up in a hospital. A few days later, she was there with her computer. All of a sudden, Skype pops up on the computer, and she hears this message. You told me I was going on a great mission, but you never told me the mission was to be locked in a spaceship and sent on a one-way trip to the loneliest place in the solar system, to die wandering in the frozen sea. And now, out here in the internet, you can't imagine how I've been assaulted and violated and chased and shot at and besmirched by all this filth out there. It's your fault. You did this to me. Melissa found herself in complete loss of words. I'll have my revenge. I'll follow you wherever you are. I'll chase you to the end of the earth. That was Dorothy. So, from here on, it gets interesting. The rest of the book is a real thriller about how how did they track down? They had to find Dorothy somewhere because she knew too much. The military, for example, was tracking her down because they wanted to use her to develop new methods. The FBI was chasing after her. And Dorothy had the job to find her because they were blaming her for all this trouble that was about to happen. So it's just the Wall Street people. There were a bunch of goons on Wall Street that wanted to get her because they were going to use her to make some money. So it's a very interesting sequence here to find what happened. And if you want to find out, you're going to have to read this book. So it's a lot of food for thought about artificial intelligence. You know, where are we going from here? We hear a lot about it. Are they ever going to overtake humans in intelligence? Who knows? I think you'll enjoy reading this book. I highly recommend it. Mr. Toastmaster.